What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and sometimes I get kind of real on this channel, and this is one of those videos. Fortunately, if you don't want a serious video today, I understand there's a lot of stuff going on. There will be some memes later today, of course, and probably a live stream playing Among Us, perhaps with my subscribers later. I've covered this topic before, and I want to cover it again because not enough people really know about what's going on in China. I've mentioned it before when we covered Mulan. In fact, I did a dedicated video about these re-education camps that exist in Xinjiang. I've probably been mispronouncing that from the start. But why should this be important to the gaming community? Why should you care if you're a gamer? All right. Well, let me tell you. Riot Games, 100% owned by China. 100%. Epic Games, 40% owned by China. Of course, Fortnite, many other things. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, 12% owned by China. Ubisoft has a 5% stake from China. Blizzard, a 5% stake from China. Grinding Gear Games, which makes PoE, Path of Exile, 80% Chinese money. So, of course, Supercell, Platinum Games, Jaeger, Keiko, Paradox Interactive, Fat Shark, which makes Warhammer, Funcom, 29%, Shark Mob, 100%, Discord has received $158 million from China. And that's just the very beginning. If you're new to this, allow me to catch you up. China has a ethnic minority, a religious minority, I'm not sure if I'm using that exactly correct, of Muslims, Uyghur Muslims. They have been accused of, and evidence has been provided of, not only having detention camps for these humans, but forced labor camps and Chinese citizens, men, sleeping with their wives. We've seen forced sterilization and more. Now, I understand everything's made by China. This hat, although I looked for a label before this video, is probably made in China. This shirt, probably made in Vietnam or something like that. I know it feels impossible. Like, I had a lot of people on Twitter when I was talking about this saying, why boycott it? It's pointless. It's not going to make a difference. It will make a difference. This is the same logic where people don't want to vote, right? I don't want to vote. I'm just one vote. It's not going to make a difference, but it does make a difference. It's why you should vote, especially in local elections. Local elections will affect your day-to-day life far more than the presidential election. So if you're going to pick and choose, at least consider getting involved locally. But yes, so many of the things we buy and use every single day are made in China. To cut them out of our lives entirely would be a near impossible task, and it would be one that would take an enormous amount of wealth. Many times you'd have to purchase a more expensive product that was made locally, and not everyone can just afford to pay double the price for paper plates. Not everyone can afford to buy shirts that are made in America that they're $80 instead of $18 or something like that. I get it. But before I get into the news, I want to say that I'm trying to come at this pragmatically. I'm trying to come at this from a position of, I understand that you can't bring the empire down by making a few choices, but you can weaken it. If you're buying paper plates, just flip it over and take a look. It's something irrelevant, right? Plastic forks. You're buying a calendar. You're buying, some things you're going to buy from China, okay? And you don't need to beat yourself up over it. But when you can make choices, I think that you could. Knowing that, I'm not saying everyone has to quit Fortnite or Blizzard. Blizzard games, World of Warcraft, coming from someone who's had a hard time quitting World of Warcraft. Blizzard is 5% from Tencent. I'd like to see Blizzard cut them out entirely. refund their money and find a different investor. I mean, that's a reasonable demand to make, especially as a customer. Now, new news came out today or yesterday that there's actually been some U.S. government action on this. The U.S. Chamber letter on H.R. 6210, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, and H.R. 62, the Uyghur Forced Labor Disclosure Act of 2020. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce strongly condemns the things that China are up to, including the persecution and detention of Uyghur ethnic minority in China. We urge Congress and the administration to deploy targeted foreign policy tools and to work with the business community to combat these issues. However, the Chamber believes that H.R. 6270, the Uyghur Forced Labor Disclosure Act, and 6210 would prove ineffective and may hinder efforts to prevent issues. Past attempts to utilize U.S. securities laws to take on these issues provide a cautionary tale. For example, well-intentioned effort to resolve bad treatment in the mining of conflict materials in the Democratic Republic of Congo in many cases worsen the situation on the ground in that country. The absence of qualified inspection and audit systems made it nearly impossible for companies to ensure accurate disclosures. This in turn caused many companies to implement de facto embargo against materials sourced in the region, which ultimately hurt legitimate miners. At the same time, the original targets of the provision simply shifted their activities to avoid being impacted. In addition to the measure's unintended consequences, aspects of the conflict materials disclosure were ultimately struck down by the courts, saying, look, this is an issue, but we need to approach it very carefully because simply, boycotting or banning or adding taxes didn't necessarily work in the past. Now, China has come out, and after Mulan got them in a little hot water because they thanked the government agency that was in charge of the propaganda to hide these labor camps. Was thanked by Disney, and then they banned the movie, banned press talking about it. China said, no, we've done, the program's been a success, China said, we're done with it. Except they're not done with it. They are currently right now building vast new detention centers for Muslims in Xinjiang. A huge brutalist entrance gate topped with a red national flag stands before an archetypical Chinese government building. There's no sign identifying the complex, only an inscription bearing exhortation from the Communist Party founding father Mao Zedong. Stay true to our founding mission and aspirations. But the 45-foot walls and guard towers indicate that this massive compound next to a vocational training school and logistics center south of Kashgar is not just another bureaucratic outpost in Western China, where authorities have waged sweeping campaigns of repression against the mostly Muslim Uyghur minority. It is a new detention camp spanning 60 acres, open as recently as January, with 13 five-story residential buildings. It can accommodate more than 10,000 people. The site is among dozens of prison-like detention centers that Chinese authorities have built across the Xinjiang region. According to a data project and initiative of the Australian Strategic Policy Center, despite Beijing's claims that it's winding down this internationally denounced effort to, quote, re-educate the Uyghur population after deeming the campaign a success. A recent visit to the area by the Washington Post and evidence compiled by the ASPI, a Canberra-based think tank, suggest international pressure and outrage have done little to slow China's crackdown, which appears to be entering an ominous new phase. For the past year, the Chinese government has said that almost all of the people in its, quote, vocational training program in Xinjiang, ostensibly aimed at de-radicalizing the region's mostly Muslim population, have, quote, graduated and been released into the community. This shows that the statements made by the government are patently false. The ASPI researcher Nathan Russer added that there has been merely a shift in the style of detention. The new compound, one of at least 60 other facilities, have been built from scratch over the past year. has floodlights, 5 layers of tall barbed wire fences, in addition to towering walls. Satellite imagery reveals a tunnel for sending detainees from a processing center in the facility and a large courtyard for those seen in other camps where detainees have been forced to pledge allegiance to the Chinese flag. This is a much more concerted effort to detain and physically remove people from society, Russer said. There aren't any other rehabilitative features in these higher security detention centers. They seem to be rather just prisons by another name. Some prison-style facilities, like the one out of Kashgar, now other existing sites have been expanded with higher security areas. Now buildings added to Xinjiang's largest camp in Dabanacheng, near another city I can't pronounce, Urmiqui or whatever, last year stretched almost a mile in length. Some 14 facilities have been built across Xinjiang, the satellite imagery shows. 8 camps appear to be decommissioned, and 70 more, almost all of them lower security facilities, have had their internal fencing or perimeter walls removed, according to ASPI's database. But there are no signs of soccer fields, factories, or vocational facilities at the new compounds south of Kashgar, which would indicate a rehabilitative purpose. Many Uyghurs and people of ethnic minority groups who have been sent to re-education camps have subsequently disappeared into prisons. When a scale of issues in Xinjiang became light in 2017 and 2018, China categorically denied their existence, but as satellite imagery, testimony from survivors, and relatives became incontrovertible, the United Nations experts estimated that 1 million people or more had been incarcerated. Beijing tried to explain away the camps as a necessary program to deal with people who are bad. This is an important issue. It is an issue that many of our woke video game companies and woke companies here in the United States have said nothing about. Blizzard has said nothing about it. Tencent has said nothing about it. Riot Games can't because they are, they are ostensibly a Chinese company. This is a modern day, I don't know how else to describe it other than pretty darn close than what was happening in WW2 that we know of. We don't know if these people are getting disappeared. We don't know. I know that we can't all change every little thing we do in our life to stick it to China, but what we can do is share the message and make sure other people know and hold our businesses and our government officials to a standard in which we expect them to speak out against this, not just speak out, but take action. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it, and we'll talk to you again real soon.